All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the F4L Headquarters podcast. I am your host with the most. I am the F4L icon, Sean Jazz Stevens, here to welcome you back to the F4L Headquarters. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, folks, today's show is epic, and it's one of my favorite kinds of shows to do. We live in a world where a lot of people like to, talk about themselves and their accomplishments and what they do for themselves. But today's show is about celebrating others and their accomplishments and getting their names out there a little bit, and why I think you should pay attention to these people and why I believe they will be doing some big things in the future or are currently doing big things, and you should pay attention to them now. One of the two. So we have a little bit of a mixed show today. It is a Talking Tuesday episode. This goes back from It's amazing how Talking Tuesday has evolved from what originally was, where I would randomly message random members of the F4L and check in on people I wouldn't really get to talk to in a long time. And I guess that has transcended into what it is now, to where I reach out to the masses of audience and talk to everyone around the world in my lovely voice. Epic. So, today's episode is exciting because I get to talk about some amazing people you guys might not have heard of yet. But I do encourage you guys to check these people out because they're going to be doing amazing things. They are currently doing amazing things, and I think that they deserve some acknowledgement for all of their hard work, dedication, and their commitments to achieving their goals, or trying to achieve their goals, I should say. Epic. So, I do have my tea going. So, again, thank you to Brutalities for providing me with tea for doing this. Also, I will be talking a little bit, after I'm done with some acknowledgments. I'm going to be shouting out and talking about Mania. And our good friends at Brutalities, I am understanding, will also be in attendance. So, make sure you guys go thank Brutalities for providing yours truly with the tea wisdom, I guess you'd say, to give me the ability to do the best I can for you guys. Epic. All right. We're going to start with something pretty big. It's kind of a combination of two things. A lot of people have wondered, where have I been? Why am I not on as much as I am? So, why don't we find out? I don't know what that was for, but hold on. Yep. All right, epic. All right, so what have I been doing? What have I been working on? Well, ultimately, I have been working on a project with some very extremely talented people that I am very excited to work with. I mean, the only thing is they get to work with me too. Well, it's not that funny. This is going to be exciting. It's been a little while since I've put something out there in the media world, and I've talked a lot about my adventures in filmmaking and making those things happen, and my ability to be able to see talent from a mile away. And I think history repeats itself time and time again. Whenever I say something about someone who is going to be doing something big, they generally do. I have a pretty good track record for seeing talent before a lot of other people will, and give people the opportunity they normally wouldn't. because I think the world is full of opportunity. And if someone like myself is able to help someone who's up and coming get to that level, then why not help them? I'm not going to go into great detail just because I can't go into full detail because we're still in production mode. Me especially knows how careful you have to be in the film world to protect your property and your entitlement and your entertainment stuff. But I do want to tell you about some amazing people I've met around the way so far. And, thank these people for their timeless effort and for becoming part of this team. So there is no set of importance on which order. However, I do want to first thank Richard M. Bourne, the author of the Hellman Elementary School series, who actually is the one who ultimately has this amazing storyline and these characters in this book series, which is very popular. In all honesty, after reading the book and getting a feel for it, I think that it's actually kind of criminal that it hasn't been made into a TV series yet. It's really written for television or film, really. So when Richard M. Bourne asked if I could help him make that goal happen, make his TV show, make his book series, and bring it from the pages to the screen, I said absolutely, let's do it, because I believe in him, and I believe in his model, and I think that what he does is innovative as far as writing goes. As you guys know, I also enjoy writing. Writing is one of my favorite things in the world. And I take a lot of pride in my writing. And if I can in some way help others who also write or are just up and coming get to that next level, then absolutely I'll do what I can to get them to where they should be. Richard Bourne asked me if I can bring his his book series to television for Netflix, Hulu, whatever. And, after reading, several of the, reading the books and so forth like that, I said, this show is written for television or books or movies, rather. So let's do it. What I find interesting is my memory and how I remember certain things, and I think that whenever it comes to working on a project, I always tend to think so while I'm in a production, one of the things that helps me while I'm in, the filming role or in the production mode is remembering that feeling at the end when it's all wrapped up for the end of the day and seeing that final project. For me, that always is helpful. I have to say that there is no thrilling, there's not a lot of there's a great sense of pride you have whenever you see something you worked hard on, something you put your blood, your sweat, and your tears into on a screen of some magnitude for others to enjoy your vision in your world, and to see the looks of bewilderment, excitement, fear, and whatever you're getting out of your audience on the faces of complete strangers who are watching something that you put your work into, along with the collective unit behind you. There is no better feeling in the world for that, in my opinion. So what I want to do is, I'm going to bring these people onto this podcast. And you'll meet these people for yourself. Now, Richard M. Bourne is no stranger to this podcast. We've had him be on before. In fact, we even met Landon and a few other people. Landon and Alex and Chris, who are of not relations, but they were nice enough to join us for a podcast live on YouTube, which we're going to be doing again, and this time we're going to bring the entire cast and crew on, which we're very excited for. So let me just rattle off some people I think that should be recognized. First and foremost, behind any great actor or actress is their great support system. So I'd like to recognize the adults first. Of course, I already mentioned Richard M. Bourne. I want to also thank Jay. I'm saying random names. I don't want to go into great detail except when I have to. Now, Jay, honestly, is the one who introduced me to Richard at Monster Mania. See, at Monster Mania, where I am very proud to be associated with and work for, I sometimes get so busy with working there that I don't get a chance to kind of see everything. But when it came to Hillman Elementary, it was kind of hard not to fall into the interesting world that the thing that they did. What Richard did is something that I don't know why no other author I've heard of does. He basically goes out and gets models or actors to portray characters from his book when he's doing book signings or book sales. What a genius idea this was. This is a great marketing idea. And I had to meet the guy that came up with such a great idea. And being someone who is an author who writes books and also is someone who writes a children's book series. Now, me personally, I'm a father, and where I started writing was really writing bedtime stories for my brothers and my sisters. And then, of course, my kids later on, but by that point I would have already written all kinds of things by that point. But I got to tell you, when it came to my kids, what I have to say thank you to them for is the fact that they always wanted a new story every night. Regardless, they all had my kids are night and day. So my daughter would like the kind of princess kind of a thing or the fantasy kind of bedtime stories, where my son, he really enjoyed like the funny adventurous wrestling stories, as he used to say. And yes, I would usually start, I'd ask him what kind of story do you want, and it would usually go funny adventurous wrestling story. And then the story would take place, and usually it took place. It had to do with Indiana's Sean, which is him, and his in me is somewhere, and then there his dad showing up here and there, and we'd have all these adventurous, and being the fact that I was from wrestling, and he enjoyed wrestling. It had to throw some funny things in there, and it ended up he had a blast going to sleep at night. And, to their credit, they never wanted to hear the same story over and over again. So they definitely kept me on my toes when it came to writing randomly. So, as someone who takes a lot of pride in being a father, and someone who also enjoys the power of writing, I really, really enjoy helping and celebrating others who do the same. Richard Bourne, in my opinion, is one of the best modern children's authors because he's, number one, real, and also the amount of work he does outside of the book series. And if you guys knew a lot of his backstory and so forth, which I'm not going to get into all of it now, but I want to say that Richard Bourne is a very much inspirational person who should be celebrated a lot more than he probably is right now. But before this project is over, and once it's been on television, and in a few years when we're up on stage getting our Emmys, I think that there's no one more deserving of the acknowledgement for this than Richard Bourne, who really ultimately is the person who gave us the tools to work with to bring this thing to life. So first and foremost, him and Jay, who is his business associate and his confidant. And I really respect someone who has someone like that in their corner. And Jay ultimately introduced me to Richard, and it's been kind of a great team thus far. What I also find interesting is how a conversation can go between Richard and Jay and I, and then we added Linda to the mix, and Linda is an amazing mom, but also she is a whiz when it comes to marketing and money and all kinds of amazing other things, but she also lives life, and she's a great mom. I see the joy that she sees in her kids succeeding. Her kids, of course, Alex and Chris Leneve, and they're out of Florida. Actually, the majority of our cast is out of Florida. Go figure. But she is an amazing person. Her husband, Brian, I believe his name is. I hope I'm saying that right. But he's an amazing guy. And I really enjoyed our early conversation. Like, well, what do we need to do to get this to happen? And then, of course, fast forward to here we are. And now we've already casted this. We've pretty much finished casting this film. The show, rather. This is a TV pilot what we're filming. And it's going to be amazing. We have an amazing, talented group. So let's talk about briefly some of these teammates, this team that brings it together. I want to first recognize, again, all the moms and the dads and the people who are right there to bring everyone together. So I already mentioned Richard and Jay and Linda Leneve, as well as Lisa Achieve, I believe is Achieve. That was her name, I believe. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Well, you guys can give me a hard time tomorrow, I promise. But Lisa Achieve is Landon and Brody's mom. And again, firecracker of a personality. And, you know, I really, when it comes to people, personalities, and talent, these are things that I am drawn to, and these are things that I like to surround myself with projects and so forth, because these are the people you want around you. So also Laura Moore, Landonna Stearns, who is Paul Michael's mom, and Laura Moore is Liam's mom. Jen Eckerson, who is the mother of one of the feistiest young ladies I've ever had the pleasure of auditioning. She's going to be playing Goodman on our show. Jenny Eckerson, her daughter is going to be playing. Her name, of course, is Liz. And of course, you know, every good female needs that good backup. And of course, you know, Heidi Young and her young daughter Isley, who absolutely crushed her audition. Really great stuff. Both of these young ladies bring their A games, almost like they, you know, secretly started planning their audition beforehand. It was amazing how quickly they jumped into those roles. And, you know, whenever you're having to deal with both boys and girls for an elementary school series, you know, you really have to be careful how you're putting your team together. You want to find out, you got to mix the team well with those who are, those who have the experience, and then those who might not have all of the experience but can learn. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all a team anyway. Also, in addition to that, we got Laura Flores, who is Gabriel's mom, who's going to be playing Grayson. Amazing young man, and we're going to get into a couple other people he knows a little bit. You might remember him from Camp Radio, actually, Gabe. His mom is great people to work with. His dad was awesome to meet as well. Also, in addition to that, Jennifer Garcia, who is Dominic's mom. Jennifer Walker's mom, of course. Of course, the incomparable Walker Campbell and his mom. We are in works with them as well. And, of course, I'm going to be shouting out people today anyways, so it's no joke, there's no surprise I was shouting out Walker anyway. Would it be a shout out special without me mentioning Walker Campbell, who is kind of the jack of all trades of everything. He's not just an actor, he's not just a musician, he's not just an athlete, he's not just a kid. He is Walker Campbell. He is the total, according to our show, he is the total package, Walker Campbell, because there's really nothing this young man can't do and do well. We're very happy to have Walker come on board with us, and his mom is one of my favorite people to work with ever. I can't say enough great things. And out of all of these people, I've actually worked with Walker and his mom. So I look forward to working with all these people. But it's always good to have those people you're used to as well. In addition to that, Batical Datical Derek, who, I am probably going to be shutting up the Baticals in general. As you guys know, I've added them to the wrestling show a while back, the Baticals. Bad Lad Connor and Bad Dad Derek. They're from TikTok. I really did, give TikTok a chance. I don't understand how TikTok works, but Derek knows it all too well, and he does really well with it. Again, I celebrate people who celebrate being a father and being a parent, and I get all the humor that they go through on their show, and we're very thankful and happy to have them on board on this project as well as Nicole Bruno, who is Gaspari and Cookie's mom. As of today, Kelly Barnett, who is Trevin's mom, which, let me tell you, the name Trevin, I have never heard. I can't say I have ever heard the name Trevin, but I love the originality of it. In fact, everybody on this everyone on the cast has an amazing sense of, originality as far as names go. I gotta say that. And looking at the names, is really a handful of them that have kind of the everyday names. But you know what? I think it's great having originality and having that mix. And last, of course, but not least, but Diane Hunt, who is Brandon's mom. Every good story needs a really good villain. And of course, when you're talking about elementary school kids, the only villains really they have to deal with is probably bullies and the occasional weirdo teachers at Hellman Elementary. So, that being said, Brandon, who's probably one of the nicest kids I've heard, is one of the nicest kids you'll ever meet, is going to be the nastiest person you'll ever see on television as far as being a bully. It'll speak to that talent. Now, all of these people are absolutely phenomenal so far. And I know that we're still looking for a few of those other roles to be filled. And we do have other people we have auditioned, and we are waiting to kind of figure out where we're going to put them. But these are the people we've already kind of locked and loaded. These people, we know where they're going to go and what they're going to be doing. So this project I'm looking forward to. What do I miss? What do I like about, filming something? As I said, that sense of the team coming together to build something out of nothing, but also ultimately bring and make something magical. With teamwork and hard work and all that stuff. And when I think back to filming early projects in my career and my life, it's just seeing the sense of pride that the young men and the young women had, or the people in general on our film got when they saw the final results on a screen. I remember that feeling and watching a young man be so proud of the work that he did, it meant something. And that to me was a moving moment. It's always impressive to see something you have done that you had a little piece of helping get there. I think when it comes to these projects, no matter what it is, and it comes to film, and I've said this, and now everyone can kind of be on Kakork, and now everyone can also find out, well, yeah, he does say the same thing. When it comes to filming a TV show or a movie, I always look at it as a joint project and not my thing or his thing. It's our collective project together, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's everyone, really. It's everyone who works together to make a show possible. Yes, absolutely. Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I'm sure they do too. These people are going to be household names once the show is on television, whether it be Netflix, Hulu, whoever's smart enough to buy this show. This will be the new show that everyone's going to talk about because I'm going to make sure it is. And these are the faces, and these are the young people who they're going to mold into those projects. The issue with things like Stranger Things and Cobra Kai is it only has so many limitations. But when you're talking about things that are the bizarre, and you're talking about, well, number one, you have me who kind of can see all kinds of different things, and you have Richard Bourne who really has, if we approach each season as a book, really, and he has 6 books deep right now in the series. So if you look at it as in a TV series, that's 6 seasons at least we're locked and loaded for. And each show is going to be just as epic as the last one because I'm going to make sure that is, and so it is. It's already written for television. I just had to add a couple things and, add a line here and there, and boom, magic. It wasn't hard. Anything you do like that, there's always a sense of, there's a lot of work that goes into it, granted, but take time, relax, and take it as motivation when you realize you have a whole team of people behind you who want to, achieve this, and we're going to achieve this together, and that's my word on that. So I look forward to working with all these people let's see, now let me mention these people. So Chris and Alex, Landon and Brody, Liam, Paul Michael, Liz and Isley, who are the 2 nicest young ladies you'll ever meet, and they're going to be household names. Watch out for them. Also, Gabriel and Dominic, Walker, of course, Connor and Gaspari and Cookie and Trevin and Brandon and whoever else we pull into this world that we're going to be part of. I look forward to, giving these people a lot of these people have done modeling and acting and have done little things before, but I'm going to make sure that their talents are highlighted and that, Hollywood can, if that's something they choose to do, that whoever they want to go after me, kind of has what they need. I have a really good track record for when people have worked on something I've done, have gone on to do bigger and better things, and I'm very proud of that. I don't get entitled, I don't feel sad, or I don't feel like I'm left out. Even if, because what happens in life is kids grow, and people move on. But it doesn't mean you have to lose contract or you don't support someone, no matter where they go. I worked on The Good Old Boy a number of years ago, and I still am in contact with the majority of the people on cast that I worked with on The Good Old Boy. And again, the fact that, I wrote the screenplay, so whenever people came for an audition, one of my gifts, or one of my things that I have, my secret hidden talent, I guess you'd say, is the ability to sort of see talent that not everyone might be able to see. And I was able to kind of work in a new scene, or I'd write in a scene to highlight those young men. Devin Henry, for example, who I thought had a personality. I said, we need to get this kid on a set because he's a joy to be around. Devin Henry went on to do some other big things after us. Christian Goodwin, who I helped get on to Millwood, which was a great film, which is what I worked on as an intern way back in the day when I was going to film school still. The great Michelle Romero of Romero Films helped me out a lot with that. And taught me the ropes kind of there, and I just kind of helped develop the team, and I was able to help find Christian and a bunch of people like that. So And if you guys listen to this podcast, Christian Goodwin, who I believe was one of the local talents, who was probably one of the best talents in our area. He, eventually he did leave the acting world to pursue other things. And you know what? Good for him. It's important to realize sometimes when you've had enough, and it's okay to take a break. Old friends of this show, who I still consider my brother, and I still stay in contact with Jojo Sebastian, who isn't doing a lot of acting or modeling right now because he wanted to take some time and just be a kid. And you know what? I respect that. Of course, I just shouted him out because I still think he's one of the best people. His mom's still one of my favorite people to talk to. They're still one of the coolest people around. And, just because they don't want to work, they're taking some time or whatever, and they want to do some kid things, it doesn't make them any less important than anyone else I talk to or still work with. They're brothers. They're F4L, and that's kind of how that works. So that's kind of how I'm different than a lot of other people in the entertainment world. I actually treat everyone as family, and I like to see other people succeed even after they've come on our set. So that's me. So no, not just going to be talking and shouting out just the cast and crew, which I'm very excited for. And again, stay tuned for more information regarding that. You might even be able to help out with this project. You could become an executive producer, perhaps, or maybe, eventually when we have the cast and crew on, you guys can ask questions. That's coming up on a future podcast, so be watching for that. But let's get some more shout-outs here as we approach. And I got to say, just one final note on everyone who I'm going to be working with on Hellman. I do look forward to working with every single one of them. And if any of you guys are listening right now, just know that I am a man of my word. And, number one, yes, we want to get the work done, but it's also important to remember to have fun and be yourselves. Remember, especially the young kids and stuff like that, we're dealing with a coming-of-age sort of television series. Remember your kids. And take time to be kids on set, off set. Just, don't do anything too crazy as it is under our banner, kind of speak. But I have no fear that our kids are going to go out and cause havoc in Tennessee, which is where we'll be. But to everyone who is part of the project, I look forward to working with you guys all, and I want to let you know that I am going to work my tail off to make sure that this project is going to be the next big thing that they don't even know about yet. So stay tuned for more of that later. All right, so let's get into more additional shout-outs. The first one I want to shout out is someone I don't get to shout out enough. And I think that she deserves a shout-out. Boy, does she deserve a shout-out. And the first person is my wife, Gladys Stevens. My wife, I am very proud of. For one thing, it's amazing how a year can change things. A year ago, we didn't know what was going to happen with the house that we had gotten that we didn't get to move into. And we were, trying to figure out what we were going to do. At that point, we were in the hotel as long as we were, and we exhausted all of that. And then my wife channeled into the fact that she is a veteran. And I am beyond proud of my wife for embracing that part of her. It's hard sometimes for veterans to understand that they're veterans. Sometimes veterans don't know that they are. My wife, you see, she didn't see herself as a veteran because she never went to war, per se. She finished basic training for the Army, and she was stationed here in the States. It wasn't during wartime, and she didn't get deployed. But she did, in fact, complete basic training, which, number one, is hard to do in itself. That's not an easy task to pass basic training. But then she was stationed and started practicing her career in the Army. And unfortunately, she got injured, and she was honorably discharged after X amount of while in there. So, according to the Veterans Administration, she is in fact a veteran because she did not only pass basic training, but she actually did serve some time in the military. She just didn't go to seas or go into the war, which my wife didn't see herself as a veteran because she didn't do such things. She thought it was more deserving for people who went to war. So, and you know what? We respect everyone who does those kinds of things, those acts of heroism. My wife did it, and she was just here. But in addition to that, she just started a new job after years and years of working the same kind of job. She took a chance in going something outside of her comfort zone. And she has a new job, and she's, settling in pretty cool. And what's awesome is the fact that I can see the pride in her again. I can see that sense of relief on her face. I can see that she is comfortable again. She doesn't panic about, where we're going to go, what are we going to do, because she knows we got this in hand. And I'm very proud of my wife for showing courage, guts, determination, and hard work, and continuing to be the soldier that she always was. And I love you, honey. So if you're listening, if you're sleeping right now, so I know you're not listening right now, but I love you and I'm very proud of you. I have no problem making dinner for my wife when I'm home. And pretty soon I'm going to be making this project, and I'll be going away, going to be filming out of state and things like that. And I know my wife is going to be okay until I get home. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. She's a tough woman, and she's got it well in hand. Plus, I got 2 kids that could help her out, too. So we're in good hands there. So proud of my wife for that. The next person I want to thank is Dave Hagen of Monster Mania. Well, there's a lot of people at Monster Mania I got to talk to, but I might be saving that for the Monster Mania segment. So we're going to go back to Dave Hagen when I go back to the Monster Mania people, because he deserves to be thrown around there with the rest of the Monster Maniacs. Dave Hagen, by the way, is the owner and founder and promoter of Monster Mania. He is probably close to any other brother I have. And I am so grateful to be part of the team of Monster Mania. It's an unofficial family reunion. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of, we can be ourselves and not have to worry about other people looking at us weird because we have a wide range of movie tastes, so to speak. Anyway, we'll get into that when we get to Monster Mania. Next up is Michael Fishman. I can't go into great detail, but I want to tell you something about Michael Fishman. Michael Fishman, who is an actor and a producer and a director and an electrician and a dad and a public spokesman and a diver and a surfer and a writer and a producer and a director. Michael Fishman is pretty much a jack of all trades, and he has earned my respect in the sense of just being a regular person outside of the entertainment thing, dropping the titles. He's just a human being who remembers and knows that he's a human being. He's an awesome dad, and he knows what it's like to have hard times and also succeed. And he also is one of the very rare people who is not afraid to break down the walls and break down the barriers of stigma when it comes to either mental health or struggling with things or whatever. And I really give Michael Fishman a lot of credit for all of the things that he has achieved already. And I can't wait to see what he's going to achieve next. Is going to be the best way to do it. But ultimately, what Michael Fishman has done for me is he reminds me, and he literally told me he believes in me. And to me, to get that from someone who I have such respect for, that someone believes in the things that I can do, that to me means the world to me. And I know it's not just lip service, because we're honest people and whatnot. So I want to say thank you to Michael Fishman, who is also, by the way, going to this podcast. We actually just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. No, wait a minute. 3-year anniversary. 2000, I started this. And Michael Fishman was my very first guest on the F4L Headquarters podcast, the all-new one. And that goes to show you the kind of person he was. Because at the time, he was working on the corners, and he was working on several other things at the time. But he was still willing to take a few minutes out of his day to be the very first guest on my very first Headquarters podcast. And that goes to show you the kind of person that he is and the giving that he is. So, I think that eventually I'm going to have a podcast. We're going to have a lot of the older guests come back. And here and there, I've brought people back here who have been guests on here before. And I am going to, when I get into these shout-outs, I definitely see this as an open invitation. You guys can always come back to the Headquarters, where you are always welcome to be yourself and have fun and talk about whatever you want to talk about, because we always support you guys. But yeah, that's kind of how that works. The next person, we got a couple of brothers who I've had the luxury of knowing. Jaden Brooks. Jaden Brooks of Parenting Possibilities. He and his brother, co-founders of this company that helps empower kids to kind of live a better life, healthy life, and be better people in general. Jaden is a huge enthusiast when it comes to health, and not just physical health, but mental health, overall healthiness. His goal isn't to be the bodybuilder. His goal is to just be healthy, stay healthy, and encourage others to do the same. And I respect Jaden for that. And I also think Jaden might be one of the smartest people I know. And that, I talk to a lot of people. And Jaden is someone who has a very wide range of understanding to a lot of various things. The fact that he is already an entrepreneur at his age. And when you think of, most people when they're 14, 15 years old, they're not really thinking about what am I going to do to elevate my business that I've had for X amount of years already. Most 14 or 15-year-olds can't even figure out what they're going to do yesterday, what they're going to do tomorrow, what they're going to make for lunch. And Jaden is someone who is giving people life tips on how to become better as healthy-wise and whatnot, getting health tips and whatnot. He's on Instagram, as is his brother Lincoln, who just joined the roster of the Icons, for those people who miss it. And Jaden's also someone who, when I first started the initiative, I thought, Jaden would be someone who would be a great addition to our roster of real-life dream masters who go out there and make their goals happen. And we're very happy to have Jaden return to the show, and we're welcoming Lincoln to his first time on our shows. And we are planning on having a watch-along event for the Icons, since we are officially back as of a little bit before the 4th, technically. And we're going to have some of these guests come in and talk about what it's like to be on the show and have a live thing versus just this lovely voice. You get to actually see our reactions to watching ourselves, which is also interesting in itself. So shout out to Jaden and his brother Lincoln Brooks. But you know what? I want to include someone else in that as well. Recently, I reconnected with Kip Brooks, which is Jaden and Lincoln's dad. He reminds me of all honesty, he reminds me of one of my closest friends, Adam or D-Rock, because he is someone who has found that, that pride in being a father, and he knows what it's like to be a dad. He knows that how he gives credit to his kids for helping him get through the darkest times. To me, the fact that parenting is such a big thing for me and my connection with my kids, and I always encourage people to have that connection. Kip Brooks, who has his own businesses going on and has got a lot of things, whatever else, he just returned back to social media, and I hope to get him on this podcast eventually too, because the fact that he raised two amazing young men like a Jaden and a Lincoln goes to show you that Kip Brooks knows what he's doing. We all have hard times, but he also reminds people that it's okay to have a hard time and it's okay to have struggles, but just never give up, keep going forward, and stay on the path. What I'd like to add to that is always remember you're not alone in the struggles with surviving in life. And, Kip or any of these other people or anything else, should you guys ever need to reach out, by all means, you know how to find me. I'm not hard to find. And I'm always there for everyone in the F4L. And Kip Brooks is also F4L, by the way. Okay, so our next two people, one person first, who just returned with a vengeance to YouTube, not just on our YouTube show, by the way, but his own self. Jojo the bodybuilder has returned to YouTube, folks. Here on YouTube. Go check out Jojo the bodybuilder. He is back on YouTube. Go check him out. He's going to be the next Mr. Olympia. I think he's already won Mr. Olympia, Junior Nationals anyway. He's going to probably be Mr. America someday, if he chooses to be. He's a young bodybuilder. He's the opposite of Jaden. He works out to become a bodybuilder. He wants to be up there and succeed in that. And you know what? Jojo is probably one of the most dedicated and hardcore workout guys I've seen in a long time. Being someone who spent a lot of time in the gym as a kid, I see that in guys like Jaden and Jojo and all these young men who are always working out in the gym. And it's important to stay healthy. I also think it's important to know where you're going to go and what you're doing it for. I think my issue with people who are working out randomly is, what are you doing it for? See, Jaden, he does it for health-wise and for kind of just to stay overall healthy, where Jojo wants to be a bodybuilder. So those are actual goals set in stone, set in mind. That's a kind of what you're doing it for. But if you're someone who is just working out to work out, what is that for? Is it are you working out to become a bodybuilder? Are you doing it to become, a fitness model? Or, because if I'm going to be honest, there are a lot of people who lift weights, and a lot of these people who are going to do things like Jojo and Jaden do, who are constantly working out. But I often wonder, what are you working out for? What's the purpose? Are you wanting to compete at the Arnold Classic, for example, which is a bodybuilding thing? And to me personally, I know a lot of my friends in wrestling who have gone into bodybuilding, as I've talked before. And, of course, Philip Ricardo Jr., who we're going to be bringing back eventually, who is my go-to expert on bodybuilding because he is the multi-time natural bodybuilding champion, the natural Philip Ricardo Jr., and he is my go-to guy who I ask questions about God and that because he knows the bodybuilding stuff. I do have friends who are into the bodybuilding world. By the way, not that he hears, but I saw recently that an old friend of mine from the wrestling days, I am aware also he has gotten into bodybuilding, but I want to say publicly, that he is doing great on that. Hold on a second. We live in a world where not everybody is, cut out for the bodybuilding world or the healthy world and whatever else. But I do want to acknowledge Brandon Locke as someone who has done an amazing job, transitioning from wrestler to bodybuilder. And I know that in talking with Philip Ricardo Jr., he knows a few guys also who transitioned from, wrestling into bodybuilding and vice versa. And, we really are kind of go hand to hand because, becoming in pro wrestling, you kind of do have to kind of stay healthy and stay fit. But Brandon Locke, should he listen, I want to say keep up the great work. I'm proud of you. He's a guy from up our way in the New England area who is a local wrestler guy who is now bodybuilding and crushing it on the bodybuilding scene. And we're proud of you, buddy. Keep it up. Anywho, that's Brandon Locke. Just a quick shout out for him. But Philip Ricardo Jr., JoJo the bodybuilder, they work together, of course, because Philip is JoJo's mentor in real life, and he's also his tag team partner on our TV show, on our YouTube wrestling show. So we recognize the amazing things and how well people can work together and the ability people can have when they want a goal hard enough, they're willing to work for it. So JoJo has returned to YouTube with a vengeance by doing his workout things and showing people his progress. What's impressive about both JoJo and Jaden and those kind of guys who are all into that fitness world kind of a thing is that they have that drive anyway. They want to go to the gym. They want to stay healthy, and they do it for themselves. It's not about what everyone else wants or anything else, for themselves. And they get that pain comes with, goes along with that sometimes. And they also understand healthy diet and staying healthy and those things come along with it too. They also know the grit factor. Sometimes you got to dig down deep to get that last set up. And I respect them for that. So, shout out to them. Go check them all out. They're all on the social medias, as I mentioned. The next person is from, we haven't talked about a lot on the show, but we do know who she is, and we want to acknowledge her as well. Bethy, well, people on our Dream Warriors show know her as Bethy Page Dunn, but Bethy Page St. Germain, who is a longtime friend of my wife's, has done an amazing job getting healthy. When we're talking about people who are getting healthy and transforming and showing grit and hard work, Bethy Page St. Germain, we recognize you for your hard work, dedication, and getting yourself looking fantastic. Great job. She has been working hard to try to manage things, and she's looking great. Keep it up the great work. We recognize your hard work and dedication, and keep up the great work. It's not easy, I'm sure, but you're doing great, and we encourage you to keep it going because you're doing great. So, the next people I wanted to shout out, of course, is a newer tag team, but also a newer podcast, Pod Meets World. How often does a podcast shout out another podcast? Well, on this show, we do it all the time. We don't care. We think that I can acknowledge the fact, and I can recognize the fact that I listen to other podcasts. I'm not ashamed to say that, because I like to learn more. I believe no matter what you're doing in life, whether it be film, wrestling, television, sports, whatever, you can always learn something else by listening to others. I love hearing others' experiences in various different things. A lot of the times people when it comes to WrestleMania, their big thing is, the big WrestleMania matches or whatever else. Mine, per se, is the Hall of Fame speeches and the Hall of Fame itself. I think it's important to recognize where we were and recognize the ones who paved the way for others. But also to hear their stories, how they got into the business, how it's changed, and what it's done for them. To me, that's more important than a lot of other things, in my opinion. So that's just me. So, there's that. But Pod Meets World is another one of those podcasts that, is a newer podcast. They talk a lot about Boy Meets World. Of course, it's being headlined and frontlined by their anchors or their hosts, the very talented Danielle Fishel, Ryder Strong, and the very talented, and as we call him on our YouTube wrestling show, The Voice, Will Friedle. Will Friedle is a local guy from the New England area, and I want to say publicly, well, on our podcast anyway, he makes me proud to come from New England because he is so cool. I think he's one of the most epic people out there. I'll tell you why. He is the epitome of what a real cool person is, in the sense of he gets pop culture. He's a real person who gets pop culture, and he's a TV connoisseur. And let me tell you what's cool about that. When I was younger myself, I didn't find myself just watching wrestling or watching television. I would study it. I would learn from it. Will Friedle does the same thing. He can quote lines from MASH and all these other shows. He knows so much about that pop culture stuff. He honestly reminds me of me, even though he's a little older than me, by the way. But I know Will Friedle doesn't have a lot of social media. I respect the heck out of that, too, because you know what? I left Facebook a long time ago. I'm very happy I did that. It's a nightmare sometimes. But I still obviously have Instagram, and of course I'm always home here on YouTube and on this podcast. But I'm not on TikTok anymore because I don't get it. I'm not on Twitter because I'm not a politician, nor do I think anybody really wants to hear my 2 cents of the day for anything relevant. If they do, I have Instagram or YouTube for that, or this podcast. But Will Friedle, I have a lot of respect for him because I feel like the conversations I could have with Will Friedle would be endless due to our pop culture knowledge of each other, comic books and television shows, classic television shows. I want to ask publicly Will Friedle what he knows about the show F Troop. I know that he talks about MASH being one of his favorite shows. I'm wondering if he's ever watched the show F Troop. I also enjoyed that show growing up, as well as a lot of the old Nick at Night TV shows, which is what I came in contact with. That's good. That's me, personally. So Will Friedle, Danielle Fishel, and Ryder Strong. Well, I think Ryder Strong is probably one of the misunderstood people in Hollywood. I think he is someone who I think is another person I think I could have an intelligent conversation with because, again, he is someone who has a mind of his own. He is someone who has his own identity. I would love to sit there and pick his brains for horror movies because I know he's a horror guy. In fact, I think I might have to talk to Dave Hagen about why we don't have Ryder Strong come to Monster Mania. He's done some horror films. And I'd love to hear Ryder Strong's opinion on horror. Because I think he has lots to offer. And I think, honestly, people can learn a lot from the industry. And this is a message to anyone who's in the entertainment world now. I think it's important to listen to these shows that when you hear from people who were in the mix for one of the most popular shows out there. They like to joke and say that they were not a thing, but no, I got to tell you, from the outside looking in, Boy Meets World was pretty popular where I was. It was part of the TGIF Friday lineup, and it was part of your ritual on Friday. It's how you knew it was Friday. Other than the fact they played Africa on the radio every Friday, Africa by Toto on Friday, that and TGI Friday was how you knew it was Friday. Of course, that was the TV lineup on television. Was Boy Meets World and Mr. Cooper and Family Matters, Step by Step, another one of my favorites. So there you go. There's kind of that. But Boy Meets World, go check them out. Not that they're a lot bigger than we are, granted, but we have a lot of respect for them, and we have them on our We have them on our wrestling show. But they also have a passion for wrestling, which I respect that too. I like the fact that they're open to new things like that. Cool. All right. Of course, we can't mention a father-son team without mentioning our favorite singing duo, Jack and Tim. So, has anybody heard the new song Hummingbird yet? Or how about, has anybody heard the Valentine song yet by Jack and Tim? If you haven't heard any one of those songs yet, I do encourage you to do so. Jack and Tim are killing it on the music industry, as always. They are in my neck of the woods, apparently, and they've been missing. They've been kind of ducking us. We're very proud of Jack and Tim. We're happy that they're here in America right now recording their new album. We always have a soft spot for Jack and Tim, or as we call them, the lucky ones. So we hope they're doing well, and we are going to see them eventually because I'm going down to the area where Jack and Tim are right now is where we're heading to film. So I'm showing up a little early, so you guys better be there when I get there. That's a joke. So anywho, the next person I want to shout out is someone else who has done a fantastic job in the sense of tremendous working, grit, determination, showing the work ethic, putting the work in, never giving up, not staying down. Grayson the Super Duck Russell. Wow. The other day he had made a post about a shark and how its mind has, hatred in his eyes and darkness and all these other things. Basically, it's a quote from Jaws is what it was. But you know what? The Super Duck, which is, by the way, a amateur wrestling move, in case you guys didn't know. Grayson Russell is a workhorse when it comes to just becoming a better technician. Whether it be, it's for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Greco-Roman wrestling. I've done both. I've done Greco-Roman wrestling and I've done various martial arts. And I respect what Grayson Russell does. He is tremendous at what he does. And of course, our current Dream Masters BAMMA champion, Noah the Nightmare Tyndall, knows all too well how tough he is. As they went and put on a clinic in what hard work and dedication has. Because to date, those matches, and of course the other four people we're going to mention, well, there's more than four in one of the groups, but the Mania boys and the Adele boys, collectively, the Adele boys and the Mania boys, as well as Grayson the Super Duck Russell and Noah the Nightmare Tyndall. When it comes to our Open MMA tournament in June, this year's tournament is going to be amazing. I am quite frankly looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. Again, I have no control over the outcomes, and we're always adding new people to this every year. Last year, it came down to Hyro the Pitbull Mania of the Mania Boys and Ty the Devil Odell of the Adele Boys. And in the end, it was the Devil who came away with the win. This year could be a completely different thing. And this year, we have the addition of Grayson the Super Duck Russell. We have, numerous other people. Easton McDonald, who wasn't part of the thing last year. And Noah the Nightmare Tyndall, who was there briefly for the tournament, is going to be part of it this year as well. So we're going to have an epic tournament this year. We also have some new people coming in who are going to be taking part. We saw the return of Sergey Yakovlev from Russia. He joined the roster. He's there. Leo the Bull Curtis out of the UK. Yesenia Verkovitz out of Russia. He's our current Dream Masters Universal Champion, believe it or not. With hard work and dedication, you should know. So these are people who, in that tournament in June, it's going to be off the hook. And there's going to be some memorable matches, I'm sure. And I get to call that. I think I'm going to have to get some help to call some of these matches, because those are going to be insane. So, it's fair warning. I'm going to be looking for help to call those actions, because those are going to be insane. Anywho, speaking of which, not only that, we have other matches going on for those as well. Let's see, Grayson the Super Duck Russell. Though, anyway, I want to say to all those young men, Grayson the Super Duck Russell, the Adele boys, Mason, Anthony, Mason, Ty, and Troy, keep up the great work. To Henry and Hyro, Mania, the Mania boys, the collective group of you guys are the core of our MMA division on our show. All of you guys collectively. Grayson, the Super Duck Russell, the Mania boys, the Adele boys, Leo the Bull Curtis, Yesenia Verkovitz, Easton McDonald, Sergey, and a few other people you have not seen yet, but you will soon. These collective people are going to be the epitome of what the MMA division is going to be, and I guarantee you, some of these names you'll see on our show now, you will see headline the UFC someday. If that's something they choose to do, because that's how much I believe in them. Because they show it every single time they step onto a mat or in a ring. They have it. They got the grit factor, and they have the hard work factor. I love it when I see, one of these, once in a while they get a black guy. They're like, oh, I got a black guy. You know what? My coach used to tell us all the time that a scar is just tattoos with a better story, and they get that. So, just so you know, the combat world's not pretty. The wrestling world's not either. Sports world's not pretty. Injuries will happen. Bumps, bruises, scrapes, it'll all happen. But guess what? At the end of the day, to hear the crowd and to feel the energy and to accomplish your goal, there's no better feeling. Even when you lose. Losing, of course, no one ever likes the feeling of losing, but just knowing the fact that you stepped onto a mat when most people wouldn't even attempt to, you're already better than half the dozen people who just sit there on their couch or sit there and, sit behind a keyboard or whatever and want to tell people how out of shape they are or how they're not as tough as they should be, or whatever the case may be. Because trust me, there are a lot of trolls in the world too. Which brings me to our friend Lucas Royalty. Poor Lucas. Lucas Royalty is a actor model who loves to promote making the world a better place. He does fundraisers to help raise charities for actual places and make a difference in the world. And I don't know what it is and why it is, but all of these social media places are just giving this poor kid a hard time. He is of age. He is, old enough to have his own account, but they keep giving this kid a hard time. People keep on complaining. People need to get over themselves and realize that the world needs more people like a Lucas Royalty to help save the world that the rest of the maggots of the world have ruined. When I say a maggot, I mean the people who are just continuously trying to hurt the world and not doing anything to help it at all. Lucas Royalty is someone who is trying to help the world, and that's not even his first priority or his first job. He's an actor, he's a model, he's a kid, he's a teenager, he's a student, and at the end of the day, he also likes to make a difference in the world, and that's something that should be celebrated. That's why I do this show, and that's why he's on our YouTube show. He might not be a fighter, but he is definitely someone who's worth being there. The fact that he is a fellow bully buster is also admirable and so forth. So there you go. there's that. So that's a lot of people I've shouted out already, and I'm not quite done yet. I still have a few more, but I'm going to do that with the Monster Mania groups as well. I also, at the end of this, I wanted to thank... I think it's important that, we always remember that we don't get to where we are by ourselves. We always need someone who can, inspire us or to give us the tools, the knowledge. For me, my teachers in school, my coaches, my sensei, they actually kept me grounded all those years, and they helped me become who I am. I had teachers who would encourage me to, they would for example, I had English teachers who would enter my writings into contests because she believed in my writing. She believed that I had a powerful way of telling stories, and she would, secretly submit my work for various different, different contests or whatever, and then I'd win. And I would never even think about being that good, but she helped build my confidence as a writer. So, Miss Layton, if you hear me, thank you for believing in my writing. One of the things that the kids used to give me a hard time for, and if you think I don't remember, I do. I mentioned before I wrote lyrics to songs, and I have written several lyrics to some songs, and I enjoy that. I did. But in high school and in elementary school, your songs and your lyrics are going to be a little different than they would be now, per se. And I wrote this song dedicating it to my English teacher back in the day called Amazing Layton. Of course, in the tune of Amazing Grace. But Amazing Layton really was about my English teacher. It was a tribute to her for believing in my writing and never allowing me to think that I'm not equal with anybody else, and the fact that she believed that my writing would be good. And she was right. So thank you, Miss Layton, for believing in my writing. Thank you to my coaches, Mr. Papil, who was ultimately my soccer and my wrestling coach and my basketball coach, and also one of my closest friends. Ray Papil was my coach for most of my young sports, and he helped, number one, he made me feel like not only part of the team, but he helped give me the tools to become the best I could on the team. He also knew when to put me in for various different roles, and I was proud to be on his teams, and I'm proud to help them now when I have to. So there you go. To my sensei, unfortunately, my original sensei had passed away, but the other senseis around the way, and also, Chuck Norris technically is the one who founded Chung Kudu, which is where one of the martial arts that I studied. But in general, I want to say, shout out to all the senseis out there, and also my old wrestling trainer, the Walter Killer Kowalski. I want to say thank you to him for giving me the knowledge of the early stages of my wrestling career. But on the flip side, I also have to thank some other people too. I have to thank the guys over at BCW, Mike Medina and Dan, for coming up with Jazz Fitness, which I got to say, at first I thought they were ribbing me and making fun of me, but in fact I realize now that Jazz Fitness was probably to date, my most popular character out of anything I've done. They saw the humor in it, they saw that it was going to work, and they gave me the opportunity to stand in front of an audience. But ultimately, the other thing is they introduced me to YouTube. It was them who would use my early YouTube videos on their promos and so forth. And that's ultimately how the YouTube sensation Jazz Fitness really began. So I thank them for seeing that in me and giving me the ability to speak and having the confidence to allow me to have the fitness center. So there's that. So there's, all the teachers, mentors, and so forth. Now let's get into Monster Mania. I got some people to thank. let me do that first, and then I'll tell you about who's going to be there and the fun details. So first and foremost, I already mentioned Dave, the dad, Dave Hagen, as well as Doug and David Hagen Jr., as I call him, but apparently he's not David Hagen Jr. By the way, David Hagen Jr. and Doug, who are on our YouTube wrestling show, will be live there this weekend at Monster Mania as well. You can meet the tag team brotherhood that they are down at Monster Mania this weekend. So, in real life. So it's going to be cool. Also, I just realized Kane Hodder is going to be there this weekend too. So, he's also a Jazz and Sons. He was a part of the first class of the Jazz and Sons Hall of Fame. He, along with Robert Englund and Tyler Main, as the Horror Connection, were inducted in the Hall of Fame, the first class. So I'm going to make sure that Kane knows that he's a Hall of Famer. The Hagens are not Hall of Famers yet, but I'm sure someday they will be. Anyway, all of the Hagens will be there, and I want to shout out all of them for always making me feel welcome and part of the family. And they are always part of ours as well. I want to thank Brutalities, who will be there this coming Sunday, who will be there this weekend as well. My tea friends. I don't know if my coffee people will be there, the Dead Sled guys or the Deadly Grounds guys. I hope they will. I hope Deadly Grounds is going to be there, as I am still trying to contact them as well. But we will hopefully see you guys there. We'll definitely see Brutalities there. We look forward to seeing you guys. I also want to shout out some people I don't get a lot of praise a lot, but I think they should. Well, Donna Jean Phillips, you guys probably know from the horror world. She is also a podcaster who runs the Donna Jean's Coffee Shop of Horror podcast. I do recommend you guys check her out. She is the nicest and the most amazing people I have ever had the chance and the luxury of working with. And she is one of my fellow Monster Mania co-workers. And I'm blessed to have her alongside of me. And I look forward to seeing her this weekend. I'm sure she'll be there, and we always look forward to seeing her. She is a true national treasure. So thank you, Donna Jean. She's been also on this show a couple times, and we look forward to seeing her. Also, want to shout out Darrell, who is always my Monster Mania brother, who we always, he and his wife are always amazing to have there. Darrell is kind of my go-to Monster Mania buddy. If he knows, I'm horrendous with names. He knows everyone's name, but I know everyone there. I respect everyone there, and you guys are all extended family to me. So don't take it personal. I always respect you. It's just I'm not awful with names. Jen, who is the one who keeps all of us together, and she minds a lot of us and is in charge of us all. Jen, your tireless efforts are endless, and I appreciate everything you do. And I'm proud of working with you and being there to support all of you guys. Same thing goes for Eric and Rob, Mark, JC. But also Alex, shout out to Alex. I hope he's feeling better. I heard he wasn't feeling well. I hope you're doing better, buddy. Rest up soon. I hope to get to see you. If you don't, I understand. Just feel better, and when I get back, I'll check up on you. He doesn't live that far from me, so hopefully Alex is going to be doing okay. I'm rooting for you, and we hope to get you back soon. All right. Speaking of which, I want to shout out Tim, Kim, and Tommy Collins, who we got to see for WrestleMania weekend, actually. It was very nice to have them over. Tommy, by the way, made his in-ring debut this past week also. Tommy might be the literal youngest person we have on our roster. And he has a win under his belt as well. But it was always good to see them. And Tim's also been on this podcast a few times. We've done conversations about the podcast. We've talked about horror movie trivia. We've talked about trivia. We've talked about movies. We've talked about various other things. We gave some survival tips. as Tim has been going to conventions of these magnitude for years, so he knows a lot about those. But he also could talk about the difference between like a Monster Mania versus a major convention, and also like a sci-fi convention versus a horror convention, because he's been part of all of that. He's also one of the coolest people I know, and his wife is good people as well, and it was always good to have them here for WrestleMania. We hope to have them here more. They were good people, so always welcome here at the House of Jazz, the actual House of Jazz. So there's that. And now, yeah, I want to just, as a blanket statement, just thank and want to acknowledge everyone who I work with and everyone who's part of the Monster Mania team. We really want to make sure our fans have a lot of fun. We want to make sure our guests are having fun and also taken care of. We want to make sure everyone collectively is safe and having fun. And we're going to make sure we do that. We want to make sure you guys all have a good time and get those memories made that we've all had. That was the reason why we keep coming. And, we thank you guys who are loyal to Monster Mania, the fans who are loyal to Monster Mania, who don't do one of those side things where, you thank us and then you mouth off about us after the fact. You guys know who you are. But you also know who you are, the ones who stand by us and stand by Monster Mania for all of these years. And we want to say thank you to all of you guys. And I want to say thank you to everyone who is part of the Monster Mania family and team. Now, in addition, let's talk about Monster Mania in general. This coming weekend, the 14th through the 16th, this weekend, at the Delta Hotel and Marriott in Hunt Valley, Maryland, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I am there as well. All weekend. Anyway, let's talk about the guest list. Who's going to be there? Well, we got David Arquette's going to be there. Interesting. I can't escape the wrestling world. I really can't. David Arquette's going to be there, along with William Shatner. And Christina Ricci. Oh boy, Christina Ricci is going to be there. That's going to be interesting. My wife is not going to be there. Fun story. Also an awkward one. Funny one. So as a kid growing up, I always had a crush on Christina Ricci. That was kind of one of the people I had a crush on, was her and the Shining Twins. Don't ask questions. I can't explain it. Dave Hagen, a long time ago, one of the reasons when we first started, getting to know each other and being friends, and I believe it has to be because of the fact it was my birthday. So for my birthday, he usually goes out of his way to kind of bring in my supposed birthday guest list. And in conversations with Dave, he knew I had a crush on the Shining Twins, and he also knew I liked Christina Ricci. But also to the extent where, in my younger days, now I want to point out, they were not dirty, or they weren't like one of those things that a lot of people you think they would be, but because I was a writer, and I was writing a series that I was writing called the Friendar series. The main character's wife was named Christina, who was based on her, and she was his wife. And of course, she died in the series, and now he's married to another wife. And actually, in the series is over, so it doesn't matter now anyway. But in that series, she was his wife for a number of years. And it's based on Christina Ricci, the actress. So, fun trivia. One year, Dave Hagen got Christina Ricci at a Monster Mania, and I was married at the time now. This was going to be the Monster Mania that I would absolutely say was my awful time. It's around the time tax season comes in. I usually get my taxes before then. My tax return, I mean. And at that particular time, they didn't come in yet. They were late coming in, so I didn't have my tax return, so I had no money down at Monster Mania because everything went to the hotel and everything else. So everything I had planned on getting, if I didn't already get it or someone didn't get it for me, I didn't get to do it. But proving yet again the power of my fellow Monster Mania family, the other fans and the other friends and the other people, they made it better for me. My friends would check up with me once in a while. Hey, is everything coming in yet? And they knew the situation. They were very supportive and helpful. Richard and Sean, specifically, Martha, a lot of those people were checking in on me, seeing how everything was. And I want to say thank you to those guys for helping me keep me sane. You guys know who you are, too. But, they helped me, remind me that, Monster Mania is more than just celebrities and spending money. It's about the atmosphere and the people you're around. So I got to enjoy other things, the show. But also, my wife, my actual wife, so I had gotten her a meet and greet with Shawn Michaels because that is someone who she's idolized for a long time. My hero growing up was Meatloaf. And of course, Meatloaf was also going to be at this show, as so was Christina Ricci. Go figure. My wife knew this, and of course, prior to Monster Mania, she had gotten me for my birthday, because again, that's why I go down to Monster Mania in March. Originally, was to celebrate my birthday. So she wanted to make sure I could meet Meatloaf, which I did, thankfully. But then, when I thought it was all done and over with, she surprised me with getting a photo up, or another meet and greet and photo with Christina Ricci. Now, I know a lot of people who probably have this situation. I'm not one of these weirdo people who goggle over these celebrities like they're some, whatever. I respect Christina Ricci for what she's done in the film world. I think that her, her roles have been, very vast in the style of what they've done. And I think Christina Ricci is wonderful, in my opinion. But, I'm not going to also be one of those people who are going to be like one of these creepy guys who are going to oh my God, you're Christina Ricci. I'm not one of those people. I respect her for what she's done. And yes, she was someone who I did have a crush on as a kid. But I'm not going to be a creep about it either. I'm human as she is. So that's how I treat her, as a human, as I am. But what's awkward about the picture that my wife got is that my wife is in the picture with me and Christina Ricci. So the way I look at it is, this is me and my fake wife and my actual wife. So it was, it's an interesting picture that I have that kind of symbolizes the fantasy and the real life world. So goes to show you, you never know, folks. You never know when you can meet your heroes and your idols or whatever. But anyway, let's get into who else is going to be at this convention here. I already mentioned David Arquette, former WCW champion David Arquette, as well as he's been in some movies apparently too. Scream, for example. Running Rumble, one of my wife's favorites. And of course, again, WCW former champion. William Shatner, of course. I hope you got... do I have to tell you who William Shatner is? He did go boldly where no man has ever boldly gone before, but he's apparently going to show up at Hunt Valley, Maryland, so that's where you'll see William Shatner. In addition to him, as I mentioned, Christina Ricci. And, of course, we're going to put together the Terrifier bunch of people there. With the Terrifier reunion there. David Howard Thornton, Elliot Fulham, Damian Leone, Michael Janella, I believe his name is. I don't know if Laura Lavera is going to be there yet, because I know she was filming something. I haven't heard anything about her canceling yet, but I know she was working on something. Hopefully she will be there. Also, Emily McLean, who played the Pale Girl. So, if those who watch our show on YouTube, at a panel, actually the same panel where I met Richard Bourne back in November, I had told the cast of Terrifier, who said they wanted to be in a video game, that not only were we going to make them part of our video game roster on YouTube, that the main event for the next show would be a mixed tag between the Pale Girl and Art the Clown versus Laura Lavera, and Elliot Fulham. And as I'm a man of my word, I made it happen, and it was quite an interesting match, and all four have been on our roster now, so and that is that. And I also am probably going to have to drop off their DVDs. I made a compilation of their matches for them, too. Anyway, in addition to that, Robert Patrick, the Terminator 2 himself, Robin Lively will be there, Joseph Wipe, and Jason Patrick, Billy Wirth, Deborah Foreman, Stephen Dorff, Paula Lazaro, David Norton, of course, for the American Werewolf in London, Marla Shatton. Oh, Marley Shatton. You guys probably remember her from Sandlot. She was the lifeguard for those people who grew up with the Sandlot. There you go. Andy Basarik, hope I'm pronouncing that right. Peter Lepore. Of course, the incomparable Jazz and Sons Hall of Famer and horror icon Kane Hodder will be there. Jean Cassier, the Crypt Keeper himself. The incredible artist Scott Jackson, as well. That's again the artist Scott Jackson, who does all of the amazing artwork for Monster Mania, and of course Buzz Hutton from Living Dead Dolls. He's gonna be there. And by the way, Andy Basarik is the lead singer of the Black Veil Brides. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. My daughter will not be in attendance there this one, but she is going to be very upset because that's one of her favorite bands is the Black Veil Brides. So there's that. I do know who they are. Look at that. And also, unfortunately, sadly, Greg Nicotero, the art man and the special props guy for Walking Dead, unfortunately had to reschedule. So he'll be back there at a later date. I already did the shout-outs for Monster Mania, so I look forward to seeing everybody there. Again, that's this coming weekend, the 14th through the 16th. I will be there the day before, meaning I'll be on my way down there on Thursday, the 13th. So in a couple days, I'll be on my way down there. So that'll be epic. And you guys can see me. I'm hard not to see. Nor am I hard to find. You'll find me pretty easy. All right. This has been pretty cool. I'm very happy that I've been able to kind of bang through my itinerary for this show tonight. It is a show to recognize people and to shout people out and to recognize others. Because I think it's important to, give people praise, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we, as people, we kind of have a tendency to think that we are it when it comes to whatever. And ultimately, it's a collective unit that kind of forms the world's artistic styles and so forth. Yeah. Paula Zero, by the way, in case you don't know who that is, she is from The Walking Dead. Of course, Stephen Dorff has been in all kinds of things. You must know him from the horror world. He's been in all kinds of things, Stephen Dorff. Don't confuse him with Brad Dorff, who does the voice of Chucky. That's not who he is. But actually, Stephen Dorff was in the original Gate movie for those pop B-rated original movie kind of things. That's kind of him. So there's that. David Norton, of course, again from the American Werewolf in London. Peter Copper, who you guys might know as better as a Prowler for those horror fans out there. I have to mention Christian and Christopher Convery real quick. They are both back on our roster, by the way, and probably will also be taking part in our tournament as well. But Christopher Convery, I just recently saw him in the Pinball movie. It was called Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game. Great job not that Christopher Convery listens to this podcast, but Christopher did a great job in that role. He plays the son of a single mother who's kind of dealing with her son and the guy who loves pinball. Or the guy, quote, who saved the game, as I said. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yep. But, Christopher Convery has been doing some amazing music, actually, lately. He does a great cover of a lot of U2 songs. And U2's not easy. I'm going to tell you that right now. And Christopher Convery kind of kind of does the with or without you things without very little issues. So good for him. And Christian Convery, his cousin from Canada, he is, of course, Sweet Tooth, and he, of course, does his own big things, as I believe Sweet Tooth Season 2 is coming eventually. What I think is amazing about Christian Goodwin and Christopher is the fact that Christian Goodwin doesn't seem to have, a lot of people. I think Heath Ledger did this as well, but he doesn't have necessarily a trope that he sticks to. Christian seems to take roles from all kinds of things, but also he always seems to be out filming outside of Canada. He's originally from Canada, as I mentioned, but he's always seems to be in another country, and you're traveling and exploring, and you know what? And that's good too. If you're going to be on location filming, it's probably a good idea to kind of get a feeling for where you are. So that's kind of cool. That you're willing to, that he's willing to explore the areas in which he is going to be working in the area. So, good for him. I'm getting close to the end of these different announcements and so forth. There is a bunch of people who I want to, recognize as far as the people I've just discovered recently on YouTube. I am going to wait on this edition because I think it's better to have them on here to introduce you to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to those people who I think, maybe you guys should learn more about from them rather than me tell you about them. I can tell you that there's some people you may not have heard of that I think will be fun to have on here, and also people who in real life show that with hard work, dedication, anything is accomplishable. Because guess what? It is. I think I've done my shout-outs for today. I said the Super Duck. I've said the JoJo's, Jaden, Noah the Nightmare Tyndall, Lucas Royalty, Michael Fishman, Dane Cook. Not that Dane Cook's a busy man, but Dane Cook, my longtime friend from Boston, my fellow Boston brother from back in the day. Not Wednesday, but way back in our youth, if you would. Dane Cook, who is, by the way, is on our roster as well. And I'm working on bringing some other newer people out here and into this, onto the show, so I'll introduce you guys to them. But yeah, Christian and Christopher Convery, Pod Meets World on all of the other people I mentioned. I'm just seeing Sergei Yakovlev, Richard Bourne. Again, I can't say enough about Richard Bourne, how I'm excited to work with him and bring his things to life. Elliot Fulham, David Howard Thornton. I'm going to be looking for you guys this weekend, and I'm going to be bringing you guys your best of compilations, so hopefully you guys enjoy those. I know when you're busy working in the field, it's hard sometimes to see everything, and I'm sure you guys are bombarded with all kinds of things, but to have kind of a best of collection of all your great matches is kind of cool too. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll be seeing you guys there this weekend. I have a busy day tomorrow. as I have a movie scheduling meeting in the morning, and then more things to prepare for my trip down to Hunt Valley, Maryland this weekend. So, guys, I want to say thank you guys all for joining me. Remember that the icons of the F4L will be back when I return. And to everyone out there, no matter what your goals and dreams are, keep doing it. And may all your dreams come true. I'm the F4L icon, Sean Jazz Stevens, saying peace from the F4L Headquarters. Get home safe. Peace.